stability and peace, and also cohesion in the country, which is Kenya. Thank you so much. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and of course, before we get into the news-making headlines, let me first update us on the current figures as they stand in a few African countries, and then we shall just jump right into the news. I have so much in store for you, and so keep it here. Kenya, we just received an updated, cases, and right now the cases are, we got new cases as per today as 278 new cases. Right now the figures in the country stands at 8,528 cases, and the death toll is 167. Recoveries is 2,504, but I think also that has changed. And in Uganda, the cases right now stands at 971. Recoveries is 896, and Zimbabwe, the cases is at 787. 9 people have died, 201 others have recovered, and in South Sudan, we have 2,093 cases, and the death toll is 40. Recoveries is 649. South Africa, 215,855 cases. The death toll is 3,502. Recoveries is 102, and also 102,299. In Nigeria, the cases are closer now to 30,000, standing at 29,789, and the death toll is 669, and recoveries is 12,108. And Ethiopia, 5,846 cases, 103 people have died, and recoveries stands at 2,430. And in Cameroon, 14,916 confirmed cases. 359 of those have died, while 11,525 have recovered. And in Malawi, 1,818. The death toll is 19, and recoveries is 317. And Zambia cases is at 1,895. The death toll is 42. Recoveries is 1,342. And Sudan, 9,997. 3 cases shy of 10,000, and the death toll is 622, and recoveries is 5,034. And Madagascar, the cases continue to go up there. I don't know what happened to that herbal remedy that President Andre Rajoelina had said will be the cure for COVID-19. And I remember he was castigating the World Health Organization, AU, and some African countries who were not agreeing that this could be the remedy. But it appears he must have jumped the gun just a little bit too soon before even the COVID organic, as he calls it, was tested, and its efficacy proved. And so we see the cases that continue to go up. Even President Rajoelina himself had urged, the Malagasy people to take this COVID organic to ensure that they are protected and also they're cured from COVID-19. But we've seen that might not be working very well for them. So Madagascar right now, cases stands at 3,472. The death toll is 33, and recoveries stands at 1,187. Somalia, the cases have reached 3,000, and right now there are 3,015. 92 people have died, 1,096 others have recovered. We move to Rwanda, where the cases right now is at 1,172. 3 people have died, and 595 others have recovered. And Egypt, 77,279 cases. The death toll is 3,489, and recoveries is 21,718. And where else? All right. I don't know. All right. So basically, that is the latest there this afternoon, and a few other African countries. If there's a country I have not talked about, and perhaps you are from that country, can you please update me on the latest figures as they stand, where you are or in your country, wherever you're watching me from across the globe. Thank you so much for joining, and the rest of you keep writing to me. Keep Tanui Savania, thank you. And yes, you're tuned in, and these are the name here, Baby Loves. Very interesting names people have on social media, but thank you so much and you're welcome. Continue watching, and please let me know where you're watching me this afternoon. About 6 minutes past 3 p.m. here in Nairobi, and that should be the time in the rest of East Africa. Okay, good. So now we start with Tanzania. The human rights campaign group Amnesty International has urged Tanzania to drop charges against a comedian linked to a viral social media post 2 months ago. And the Amnesty International say that the comedian and reality TV star was arrested in May after he posted on social media video of himself laughing at an old photo of President John Magufuli wearing an oversized suit. The comedian is said to be arraigned in court for the second time on Thursday for failure to register a SIM card previously owned by another person and failure to report a change of ownership of a SIM card. Come on now, our President Pombe Magufuli. He should develop a sense of humor, Okay, but let's just move to Uganda, where now motorcycle taxi operators in Uganda have sued the government for denying them permission to carry passengers. The Riders Association says the government is discriminating against their businesses and allowing every other business to operate with regulations. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni allowed public transport to carry passengers at half capacity to ensure a social distancing. He, however, said it will be premature to allow the motorcycle taxis, known as boda, saying there were barely any distance between passengers and riders. And then we move to Malawi. And then Malawi's new government has revoked an order telling the Chief Justice to go on leave before retirement. Malawi's former President Peter Mutharika had directed the Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda to begin his leave until his retirement. That move had sparked criticism. Mr. Nyirenda led the Supreme Court in its decision to nullify President Mutharika's election, paving the way for a rerun, which he lost to the opposition. In withdrawing that order, the new government has said that matters of the Chief Justice's leave are between him and the Judiciary Service Commission. The new notice was shared on the official government Twitter account. We move to Mauritania, where several people have been arrested in connection with the disappearance of millions from the Mauritanian Central Bank. Among those arrested are bank employees implicated in the loss of about 358,000 US dollars. The central bank had in a statement announced the mysterious disappearance of the money. It admitted to weaknesses in its internal controls and pledged to tighten security. Police in the country are investigating the fraud. How does money just disappear from a central bank of a country? Come on. And we move to other news that are money related. And the African Development Bank has said that 49 million Africans could be pushed into extreme poverty by the coronavirus pandemic. The AFDB said on Tuesday that West and Central Africa stand to be most hit by the economic slump. The bank projects that the economy will rebound from the pandemic slump in 2021. The AFBD forecast a 3.4% contraction in gross domestic product in 2020. Now, the figures were included in a revision of the AFDB's Africa's Economic Outlook, which was originally published before the pandemic. And then we move to the Burkina Faso, where the bodies of at least 180 men have been found in mass graves in the northern Burkina Faso, according to a report by Human Rights Watch. Now, the graves were found in a region where government forces are fighting jihadist insurgency, and the men had been buried under bridges, in fields, and along major roads near the town of Djibo in groups of up to 20. Human Rights Watch say there are evidence that these were victims of extrajudicial killings by the army. Now, the group has urged the government to find out who turned the area into what it called a killing field. We move to Zimbabwe, where Zimbabwe's Health Minister Dr. Obadiah Moyo has been fired over alleged involvement in a $60 million COVID-19 scandal that also roped in President Emmerson Mnangagwa's family. In a statement on Tuesday, a chief secretary to the president and cabinet, Dr. Mishek Sibanda, announced that Moyo had been relieved of his duties by President Mnangagwa, and the embattled minister was arrested last month for allegedly awarding a lucrative tender tender to Drugs International for the supply of COVID-19 drugs and personal protective equipment, despite being fully aware that the company was not a pharmaceutical entity but a consultancy firm. Seriously. And then a proxy of the United Arab Emirates registered company Drugs International, Delish Nguaya, is currently in prison after his arrest last month. Moyo's dismissal comes amid mounting pressure by Zimbabwean anti-corruption organizations and political parties who are demanding that President fire all his corrupt government officials. Move to Nigeria, where a source close to the Nigerian president has said that the head of the country's anti-corruption agency, Ibrahim Magu, has been suspended. He is now believed to be under investigation and was invited to face an investigative panel at the presidential villa in the capital, Abuja, on Monday. The anti-corruption agency, EFCC, issued a statement saying that the chairman freely honored an invitation from the presidential panel reviewing the activities of the anti-graft body. Nigeria State Security Service, known as the DSS, says he has not been arrested. Mr. Magu was appointed head of the EFCC by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2015. He was seen as a hardliner in President Buhari's campaign against corruption, a major focus of his presidential campaign. Outside of Boko Haram, all right? And we go to Mali. And a Malian president on Tuesday said that he was considering appointing candidates who lost the last legislative elections to the Senate in an attempt to restore stability in the country that has witnessed several weeks of protest. Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta made the proposal after two major rallies in the West African state of 18 million people organized in June by galvanized opposition in a context of growing hostility towards the president. Several thousands of people marched through the streets of the capital Bamako, showing their frustration with the slow pace of political reform, widespread corruption, and daily violence. This recent protest followed anti-government rallies in May following legislative elections in March. Now, the Constitutional Court, in publishing the final results in April, annulled the victory of some 30 parliamentary candidates and who had been declared elected in the provisional results proclaimed by the Ministry of Territorial Administration. This triggered demonstrations in several cities across the country. And we go to Senegal. A small island off the coast of Africa known for its role in the slave trade has changed the name of its main square in response to the death of George Floyd and the global Black Lives Matter movement. The island of Gorée, a few kilometers off Senegal's coast, announced Tuesday that Europe Square will now be known as Freedom and Human Dignity Square based on a decision by the Municipal Council. Its original name was given in 1998 after European funding paid for renovations at the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, this place was used as a getaway to get slaves off to Europe and other parts of the world. And Senegal, in 1998, I was thinking this perhaps happened maybe a long time ago, after European came and funded this place to renovate it and all that. And they knew the activities that happened. This was a gateway for Africans to be taken to the rest of the world as slaves. They went ahead and named this place the Europe Square. Like, what in the world is that? Okay, please help me understand, because I don't know. Now, Gorée, that European square, was the site, the small island in Senegal where this European square was the site of the largest holding area for enslaved people from 1536 to 1848. The island was valued for its small size and strategic location and was fought over by the Portuguese, Dutch, French, and British during its 312-year history. And then after that, you're going to name that place a European Square. Are you out of your mind, you government of Senegal? All right. So now they've named it what? They've named it, let me see the new name to that place. They've named that place Freedom and Human Dignity Square, in response to the death of George Floyd. Africans are so reactionary. I don't even understand sometimes how some of the leadership and how their minds work. I don't get it. Please let me know what you think about that story. Move to Cameroon, and Cameroonian rights and press groups are alleging a military cover-up in the deaths of journalist Samuel Wazizi after the military on Monday refused to hand over his body to the family. Cameroon's military in June admitted Wazizi had died at a military hospital in August last year after months of silence on his whereabouts or condition. Supporters of Wazizi, who were arrested for allegedly collaborating with the Anglophone rebels, have accused the military of torturing him to death, a charge they deny. Spokesperson for Cameroon's military Cyril Atongfak says they will not hand over the body of journalist Samuel Wazizi to his family anytime soon. Wazizi was a presenter for a Chilean media television based in the southwestern town of Buea. Cameroon's military arrested Wazizi in Buea for allegedly supporting Anglophone rebels who want independence from the French-speaking majority. Cameroon's four-year separatist conflict in its western regions has displaced more than 500,000 and have left 3,000 people, over 3,000 people dead so far. And we go back to Zimbabwe, and now Zimbabwe has agreed to pay nearly £3 billion in compensation to white farmers who had their land taken from them nearly 2 decades ago in a significant new agreement. After 10 years of politically charged negotiations, on Monday an agreement was finally struck. The Zimbabwean government agreed to pay about 50% of the value of the capital assets such as buildings, livestock and machinery on their farms, which amounts to some 2.8 billion British pounds, spread out between 3,200 evicted farmers. Now the agreement is expected to be signed within weeks, but it is being treated with caution. And this is why. Zimbabwe is bankrupt and is suffering from high inflation rates and food shortages. Now, the government in Harare is currently unable to get international loans or import enough fuel for its population. So, anybody sitting somewhere in Europe thinks that Zimbabwe will be able to afford 3 billion British pounds to pay these evicted white farmers from Zimbabwe. 3 billion pounds that Zimbabwe right now requires so much for its own use back home, and it cannot even afford to take care of its own nurses. We saw the other day they went on strike because they've not been paid, and other things are just not working very well. And you think Zimbabwe will afford 3 billion pounds to pay the white farmers? Okay, good luck with that. So again, still in Zimbabwe, and the government, maybe it can pay after this story, I don't know. The government of Zimbabwe has spent millions of dollars on luxury cars for senior officials, despite a deepening economic collapse that has plunged its people into profound hardship. The new cars, including dozens of Range Rovers and other kinds of cars, which are worth more than $40,000 US, were distributed to ambassadors and senior civil servants. Analysts say the move constitutes a new effort to show up support for the government of President Emerson Mnangagwa, who took power after the military coup that ousted Robert Mugabe in 2017. Dozens of luxury models also are believed to have been distributed to senior army officers, while junior ranks have received more modest vehicles. The total cost has not been disclosed, but some of the purchases have been confirmed by ministers in answers in Parliament. Yeah, and yet your nurses are going on strike because you cannot pay them, and you're going to buy luxury cars. I don't understand. We go to South Sudan, and the Bank of South Sudan has announced plans to purchase crude gold locally in a bid to boost the country's economy. According to the bank's boss, President Kiir has approved $4 million for the bank to build its mineral stockpile. The president never disappointed us. He requested the money to be released from the Ministry of Finance. That is what Gamal Abdalawani told, one of the leading media houses there. He revealed that the board of the bank also approved an additional $1.5 million to acquire the crude gold. All right, and then we end with some news from Biafra. And the indigenous people of Biafra on Tuesday claimed to be in talks with the United Nations to hold a referendum for a sovereign state of Biafra. The claim was contained in a statement by the group's media and publicity secretary, Emma Powerful. Now Powerful said that IPOB was making efforts for the referendum any moment soon, promising that the exercise will be peaceful. The group said everybody resident within Biafra territory would vote according to their conscience. Now, this is what I'll quote what Emma said. He's saying, we are not going to force or intimidate anyone or try or bribe because the will of the people is sacrosanct and must be respected. Each individual will be allowed to decide for themselves if they want to belong to Biafra or not. Now, the raging Biafra agitation led by our leader, I'm quoting what the spokesperson of the group, Emma Powerful, said. The raging Biafra agitation led by our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is a divine project, and we are confident of securing over 99.9% approval any day a referendum is held, because more tribes and clans outside of Southeast and South are indicating interest to be recognized as Biafrans now. The statement continues, the nation of Biafra will be a democratic state where the people will decide what they want. People of various nations in the new republic shall be in charge of their own affairs, while the center will only have control over the defense of the country against external aggression and foreign affairs. All right. I see that Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu and IPOB there, you have all your plans, very worked out very well there. And you even have, everything just mapped out so well. And you're saying this country will be for everybody. And of course, these statements are coming after, a lot of, like we said yesterday, and we've been talking about it, a criticism towards Nnamdi Kanu that has not really gone very well with the supporters of Biafra and Biafrans themselves. And so we see an increase of the need for IPOB to be coming out and talking and issuing these statements. And Nnamdi Kanu addressed that matter yesterday, addressed the criticism, that he has been receiving. And also today, now we see through the spokesperson, the media and publicity secretary, Emma Powerful, coming out here and saying that right now, Biafran leadership is in talks with the United Nations on how this referendum should be held for the sovereign state of Biafra to be formed. Let me just read a few of your comments, and then I will continue with the rest of the conversation. And please let me know what you think about all this. Elvis Nso Eyong, you're saying hi. Miriam, how about the people, former British Cameroon, aka Ambazonia? Help us from your media. I think I just talked about that. And that journalist that was murdered, I think he was arrested last year in August. And after the family persisted in asking the government, and he was arrested by the military about the whereabouts of this journalist who was working in a media house in the northwest part, that is the Anglophone part. And it is just in June that the government came out and said, no, this person is dead. Since August last year, the family kept asking, and now they're saying, can you please give us the body, because we need to at least bury him, see his body and bury. And the government, of course, has refused this journalist Wazizi. So that just goes to tell you about the things that still continue to happen there in Cameroon and against the people of Anglophone. There's usually one of our viewers there, I think from the larger Francophone part of Cameroon, who usually don't like that. But you see, this is the reality and the facts as they are in the ground. I don't know if he's here today. I'll try getting him. I don't know if he's here today. But yes, so we've been, So the cops, the government has refused. They're saying he died in June, and the family and through their lawyers trying to say, can you give us the body so that we can go bury? But the government is saying, no, we cannot give you the body. So, of course, the family through the lawyer is saying this person must have been tortured by the military, and the military is saying, no, we did not torture him. So if you do not torture him and he's dead, can you give the body to the family so that they can be able to bury? But, of course, the military there is saying, no, even the body of this, journalist from the Anglophone region there cannot be given to the family, which is quite interesting there. So anyway, as I was saying, And Elvis, thank you so much, and really nice to see you. Kangod, thank you, and you're saying hello from Buffalo, New York, United States there of America. And I have some news for you. The Bank of South Sudan has announced plans to purchase crude gold locally in a bid to boost the country's economy. I don't know how this is going to work out for South Sudan. Just yesterday, I was reading a news item where the government was losing out on its revenue, as their revenues outside of just the oil, that the government can trace the revenues from the oil. But any other kind of revenue was being channeled to personal accounts. So when I read this about the government's plan to purchase, the crude gold locally in a bid to build the economy, even the little that you have that you're getting revenue from, you cannot account for it. It's being channeled to personal accounts. How is that going to work there for South Sudan when they don't have, structures in place to address that? I don't know. And all right, and this issue of Zimbabwe, it appears it will not go away anytime soon. Now, let's just go back to that news I just read there, where Zimbabwe has agreed to pay nearly 3 billion pounds in compensation to white farmers who had their lands taken from them nearly 2 decades ago in a significant new agreement. After 10 years of politically charged negotiations, on Monday, an agreement was finally struck. Like somebody somewhere is waiting for Zimbabwe to call a good 3 billion British pounds to pay who? To get money from where? Because entities which could have perhaps, loaned Zimbabwe this money, the World Bank, the IMF, and these other financial institutions, they've refused, and Zimbabwe, they have refused. They can't. Zimbabwe can't get loans from these institutions. So you expect Zimbabwe will get 3 billion, pounds to pay these farmers. And remember when when President Robert Mugabe was going to reclaim these lands, there was an agreement with the British government that they were going to help in funding in repayments of these white farmers, and then the British government backed off. If you can go read about the Lancaster agreement there, and the British government backed off, and now that was left for Zimbabwe, and this has led to Zimbabwe, among other things, receiving a lot of sanctions, and Zimbabwe finding itself in a very tight spot as we speak. And so I don't know how, when Zimbabwe cannot afford 3 billion British pounds to pay anybody right now. The country itself needs a lot of money to be injected into the economy. It needs to pay its staff. It needs to pay the civil servants there. Like I said, the nurses went on a strike yesterday, some of them. And so it is going through a very difficult financial time. So if you still expect that Zimbabwe right now, priority will be to pay 3 billion British pounds to these white farmers over the lands that were taken. And that is very debatable, because I remember Robert Mugabe one time, he was being interviewed by Christian Amanpour of CNN, and she was asking him about these lands that were taken from Zimbabweans, and he said, which one? Like, the white Zimbabweans. He said, no, we just, if you are holding a stolen property, when the owner comes back, they have a right to take it, because that was a stolen property. Zimbabweans do not give this land willingly. It was taken from them by force. So he was defending that. And now they want Zimbabwe to pay these white settlers, white farmers for that, which is, I don't know. I don't know if you can go do a similar thing in Europe and as an African, and you get away with that. The double standards that exist in this world, sometimes are just quite ridiculous over there. But Zimbabwe does not have 3 billion British pounds to pay anybody. If anything, it needs that money in its economy to pay a lot of even the drugs there that are lacking in, the hospitals in Zimbabwe. So I don't know, perhaps they need to review this, but maybe by Zimbabwe agreeing to pay this money, maybe, I don't know if some of these sanctions will be lifted, because Zimbabwe right now was even removed from the Commonwealth, and it has been fighting to go back as a Commonwealth member. And so, all right, good luck there, Zimbabwe. But also now hear that the government is spending a lot of money in buying luxury cars to senior government officials. Why does a government official in Zimbabwe needs to drive in a Range Rover for them to feel like they're a minister? Why? Please, why? With all these economic cars we have around that are still quite, comfortable, why? Where is the priority of the Zimbabwean government? As much as, they're lacking in that aspect, you find the government now is buying luxury cars to senior government officials. Like, where is your priority, President Mnangagwa there? I think it's the same ridiculous things that a ridiculous thing that is happening with South Sudan, where they're getting the revenue, but it's being channeled through to personal accounts there. I don't understand. So earlier, the news that I just read is that, IPOB is saying that it is in talks with the United Nations and to hold a possible, very soon, a referendum for the sovereign state of Biafra. And now these statements were contained in a statement by the group's media and publicity secretary, Emma Powerful. He said that IPOB was making efforts for the referendum any moment soon, promising that the exercise will be peaceful. And the group said every resident within Biafra territory would vote according to their conscience there. So he's saying, yes, I saw Erun Idaho. I know. 3 billion British pounds. That is the agreement that the Zimbabwean government has entered with the British government to pay, the farmers that the lands were taken and given back to the rightful owners. Yes, because that is the truth. That is the truth. So 3 billion, can you imagine? Where is Zimbabwe going to get 3 billion pounds? I know. I'm just as shocked as you, but thank you so much. You're saying I check my sound. If you had a problem with the sound, I don't know the rest. The rest of everybody else seems to be listening so much. Elvis to be hearing me, but if you're still having a problem there, baby loves. I'm not saying that is the name of the viewer who is complaining. I'm not being funny, okay? So Elvis, thank you. You're saying thank you so much, Punchline Africa, and a special to Dr. David Matsanga, who is liberating Africa from this platform. God bless. All right, thank you, and I will pass those kind regards to Doctor himself. And yes. All right, they'll check that sound. All right, so Emma Powerful, while issuing this statement, he said, it is quite clear and understandable to every citizen of Biafra, and indeed the entire world, that we need a referendum where the people will exercise their right on whether or not they want self-rule or continued existence within Nigeria. Now, a statement, of course, by Emma Powerful yesterday said the move is to allow the people to decide if they need Biafra or they still want to remain in Nigeria. We are not, I'm quoting him, he said, we are not going to force or intimidate anyone or bribe or anyone or tribe, because the will of the people is sacrosanct and must be respected. Each individual will be allowed to decide for themselves where they wish to belong. And the raging Biafra agitation led by our leader, that is what Emma Powerful said, led by our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, is a divine project, and we are confident of securing over 99.9% approval any day a referendum is held, because mob tribes and clans outside of Southeast and South are indicating interest to be recognized as Biafrans. And also it says that the nation of Biafra will be a democratic state where the people will decide what they want. People of various nations in the new republic shall be in charge of their own affairs, while the center will only have control over the defense of the country against external aggression and foreign affairs. All right, the external aggression, who will that be? Nigeria, I guess. All right, so that is the statement there by Emma Powerful, the media and publicity secretary for IPOB. And I think in the last statement there, I think they are addressing the issues that have been arising, where some people have been saying, Nnamdi Kanu said that, when this Biafra nation is created, Christians and Muslims will not be welcome. I don't know what kind of other people will not be welcome and will be killed and all that. A lot of things have been said for a while now. So I think that statement there just seeks to perhaps allay some of those fears. And yes, Kiptanui, thank you so much and a very good afternoon. And Jane Samuel Abujon Kabashi, you're saying, just forget about South Sudan government. Nothing is running good there. And we cannot just forget about South Sudan. And Chol Makori, you're saying, sound is good. Oh, fantastic. All right. So look here, baby loves. Again, I'm not being funny. It's the name of one of our viewers. Please check your sound. Perhaps you have a problem on your side there. But thank you so much for watching. And Kiptanu, thank you so much for watching. So now this matter in Tanzania, where a comedian was arrested and has been in jail for the past 2 months because he made fun of President Magufuli, made jokes of an old photo of President John Magufuli wearing an oversized suit. And he is a comedian. Like, even now, being a comedian in Tanzania, I mean, it's not funny anymore. You can't even laugh. I mean, President Magufuli obviously needs a sense of humor. And now the Human Rights Campaign group Amnesty International has urged Tanzania to drop charges against this comedian. What is his name? His name is Idris Sultan. And this is what Amnesty director said, that it is a travesty that Idris Sultan is being subjected to judicial prosecution simply for exercising his right for freedom of expression. Laughing is not a crime. And I agree, laughing is not a crime. And I see a lot of Kenyans even here make a lot of fun, on President Uhuru Kenyatta. But I think President Uhuru Kenyatta is too busy. He will not even be bothered unless somebody is really bordering insult. Then, that will be a problem. But just for President Magufuli, come on, be a good sport. He's just a comedian, and that suit, that old suit, was really looked very interesting. Myself, I looked at it and laughed so hard because it looked ridiculous on it. The person he should be blaming is his tailor or the shop where he bought that suit that didn't give him the right size. I'm joking. But still, that is not something that warrants anybody to be put in jail, surely. Come on. I think there are crimes there that deserves, some jail space, not somebody just exercising, a sense of humor. This is a comedian, and laughing has never been a crime. President Pombe Magufuli, please improve on your sense of humor and just focus on things that are important, like, for example, coronavirus, that now you're saying is over in Tanzania, when the rest of us know it's not the same, because even as we speak, the government of Tanzania closed down an online television station like this one that reported that the embassy of the United States in Dar es Salaam there has said that there should be a reason to worry about the rising cases of coronavirus in Tanzania. And so because of that TV station was closed down. If you cannot even stand criticism, you have no business being a president, because not everybody will agree with you. Some will love you, others will criticize you. And when a person criticizes you, it's not because they hate you or anything. Sometimes they just demand for a better service, or for you to just up your, the way you do things there, or service delivery in Tanzania, and you are the president. So obviously you'll be subjected to all these kinds of scrutiny. So if you have such a thin skin, you have no business being the president there. And so this comedian has been in jail for 2 months, and Amnesty director for East and Southern Africa is telling President Magufuli, laughing is not a crime. And I agree, especially on that. It's so stupid, because he laughed at an old photo of President Magufuli with an oversized suit. I mean, okay. let's just leave that alone. And we go to Malawi, where the new government has revoked an order telling the Chief Justice to go on leave before retirement. And Malawi's former President Peter Mutharika had directed the Chief Justice Andrew Nyirenda to begin his leave until his retirement. That move had sparked criticism, and Mr. Nyirenda led the Supreme Court in its decision to nullify President Mutharika's election, paving the way for a rerun which he lost to the opposition. In withdrawing that order, the new government said the matters of the Chief Justice leave between him and the Judiciary Service Commission. The new notice was shared on the official government Twitter account. So we saw there President Mutharika just a few, I think 2 weeks to the elections that happened on 23rd of June there. He tried to change the Chief Justice of the country, and of course the court overturned that, and it was deemed as being illegal. And so there you go. And Chol Macro, you're saying Melbourne is locked down tonight. I saw that because of the increased numbers of coronavirus there in Melbourne, and I think this might act as is it a red flag to the rest of the countries that are seeking to reopen? We know here in Kenya, the restrictions have been lifted. And so in the next maybe 2-3 weeks, perhaps, we expect a spike in terms of the people who will be testing positive for coronavirus. So Melbourne is locked down tonight. So I don't know for how many days. Is it 21 days or how many days or 2 weeks? I can't remember the exact time. Ogebe Omoto Chanyo saying president is running out of sense. It was a good man. He can't arrest a comedian man. I know. And because this comedian just made fun of his oversized suit that he wore a long time ago before he perhaps developed a good sense of style. So he should develop perhaps a good sense of humor and just, focus on things that are important. How are you going to jail somebody because, come on, President Magufuli, that is just petty. Okay, if he was President Uhuru Kenyatta, then he would have jailed half of Kenyans because they make fun of him every day, but not on his clothes. Kenyans seem to be loving so much President Uhuru Kenyatta's new style, the African shirts he wears lately, but they make fun of him everything else, anything that President Uhuru Kenyatta says, Kenyans will always turn it into a meme and it's trending and all that. But, he's a busy man, so he does not have time to be following up with some of these things that are just, it's hard times. So people are just trying to find a good laugh wherever they can get it. Yeah. So that is it's just ridiculous there for President Magufuli. All right. And, who else? Now, this Mali president, who is saying that he's considering appointing candidates who lost the last legislative elections to the Senate in an attempt to restore stability in the country that had witnessed several weeks of protest. Now, this is what happened. The Constitutional Court, elections were held in March in Mali, and the Constitutional Court, in publishing the final results in April, annulled the victory of 30 parliamentarian, wins or candidates who had been elected. They had been declared to have won the election, 30 of them, and then the Constitutional Court annulled all these 30 elections. So that is what has caused, and all of them are from the opposition. Yeah, so that is what has been causing a lot of problem and the protests that you've been seeing in Mali. And Mr. Keita met Tuesday with a group of candidates who had lost the seat they thought they had won in March in an attempt to calm the situation. According to several participants and presidential officials, he suggested appointing some of them to the Senate. I don't know, it's already messed up there for President Boubacar Keita. And we also see that the head of the anti-corruption agency, EFCC, in Nigeria is still facing some investigation, and he was being investigated with a panel at the presidential villa in the country's capital, Abuja, on Monday. And now sources indicate that Ibrahim Magu has been suspended. Of course, the government has not come out to clarify that. Thank you so much. Nana Lopez, thank you. Nice to see you. You're saying Mazi Namdekanu. is your leader. And yes, his IPOB just issued a statement yesterday, and they said that just trying to address some of the issues that have been arising, a lot of people have been peddling around, and he's saying that through the media and publicity secretary, that Biafra, as we speak, is in talks with the United Nations on how a referendum for the sovereign state of Biafra will be held. And so I think that that is something that they're looking to do. And of course, Nnamdi Kanu has been agitating for this. So he's saying that they are in talks. The IPOB is in talks with the United Nations for that reason. Thank you so much. Ikwoma Onyema, you're saying you are listening from Abia State in Biafra land. Okay, thank you. I think my time is up. You just joined me now. We had such a long, show early in the morning, 2 shows, so I'm a little worn out. So I think we shall meet here tomorrow for another show. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you, all of you. Ogebe Omot, thank you, Nana Lopez, Achol Makor, Noachuku, Biafra, and the rest of you, Kiptanui. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for your participation. So I'll see you here again tomorrow. My name is Mira Mugutu. A very good afternoon to you.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.